Have you ever felt this strange discomfort before? The doorbell rings. Someone wants to come in, have a chat, maybe spend some time. But deep inside, you feel resistance, an unshakable urge to simply say no. It's not that you dislike people. It's not anger toward the world. It's just that you don't enjoy visitors. You value your quiet home, your steady routine, and the calm energy that comes with solitude. If this feels familiar, take a deep breath, because today we're going to talk about something rarely admitted, yet deeply real, the hidden discomfort of those who struggle when others step into their personal space. And here's the truth. You are not rude nor antisocial. According to Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, this tendency reveals something far more profound about your inner nature. In this video, I'll share 6 of Jung's insights that explain why some people simply dislike having visitors, why it's not only natural, but may even reflect a valuable psychological process. So stay with me until the end, because if you've ever felt guilty for wanting to be alone, you may discover today that it's not a flaw in your character. It's part of your growth. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you also feel uneasy when someone shows up unannounced? I'd love to know if this resonates with you. And now, let's explore why some people feel at home in crowds and gatherings, while others feel exhausted, sometimes even at the simple thought of having guests. It's as if the very presence of another person drains your energy. And there's a reason for that. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, introduced 2 terms that are now part of our everyday language: introvert and extrovert. But don't misunderstand. This isn't about being shy or outgoing. Jung wasn't describing surface-level behavior. He was talking about something much deeper, the flow of psychic energy. The extrovert directs their energy outward. They thrive on contact, activity, and external stimulation. The outside world fuels them. It gives them strength. The introvert, however, is wired differently. Their energy flows inward. They recharge through silence, reflection, and solitude. And when they are overexposed, too many conversations, surprise visits, constant noise, their mind begins to shut down. Not from arrogance, but from necessity, a deep psychological need to protect and restore their inner world. And this is the key point. Not wanting visitors is not a social flaw. It's not a weakness, not a failure. It's a direct reflection of how your energy is built. If you lean toward introversion, and many people do without even realizing, then your home becomes more than just 4 walls. It is a sanctuary, a sacred cocoon where your energy reorganizes, where your psyche finds balance. When someone steps into that space, even with the best intentions, they disturb invisible threads you've been carefully weaving all day. Their presence forces you to wear your persona, that social mask we all carry. And in doing so, you drift away from your true self. And you know what? That is deeply exhausting. Jung explained that introversion is not a conscious decision. It's a disposition of the soul. Fighting against it only creates inner conflict and more fatigue. Some might say, "Oh, they're too reserved. They don't enjoy company." But what they can't see is this. What looks like coldness or disinterest is often nothing more than self-protection, a psychological shield, an invisible boundary built by the unconscious to guard the inner self. Carl Jung called this process, "The shadow is a part of you that you may not fully know. It's quiet, hidden, but it shapes your feelings, your reactions, your deepest discomforts. When someone enters your home, you're not just opening a physical door. You're unconsciously opening the doorway to your most vulnerable energy. And that's exactly where the shadow comes alive. The shadow holds everything you've suppressed. Parts of yourself you were forced to hide. Old fears, unresolved memories, unspoken wounds. Picture this. The bell rings. You let someone in. You sit, you talk. But instead of feeling at ease, a strange discomfort rises within you. And you can't even explain why. The truth is, their presence, their tone of voice, the way they carry themselves, may unconsciously touch a blind spot in your psyche, something you haven't faced yet, something that lives in the shadow. That's why Jung once said, "What you do not bring into consciousness will appear in your life as fate." And sometimes that fate doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes it's simply a social discomfort, a harmless visit that suddenly feels like an invasion, an almost physical urge to ask them to leave. It's not arrogance, it's the shadow, quietly protecting your inner world. The more you live on the surface, adapting, staying polite, forcing yourself into endless social interactions, the less space your soul has to breathe. So if you feel the need to be alone, if the very thought of visitors overwhelms you, maybe your shadow is whispering, "Listen, you need silence, you need space, you need yourself." And recognizing that, listening to that inner voice, is an act of courage. Think about that feeling of relief when you finally come home after a long day. You close the door, you slip off your shoes, you take a deep breath, and in that moment, you simply are. In Jungian psychology, the home is not just a building. It is a symbol of the soul, a mirror of your inner state. When someone enters your home, they are not just stepping into your living room. They are crossing into sacred territory. Jung believed that symbols speak louder than words, and the house is one of the most powerful symbols of the psyche. It represents the self, the very center of your being, where balance is restored, where healing begins. Each room holds meaning. The bedroom, your intimacy, the living room, your social mask, the kitchen, your emotional nourishment, the basement, your unconscious, the attic, your higher thoughts, and then the front door, the sacred boundary between you and the other. When someone crosses that threshold, your unconscious knows it. It senses that something foreign is entering, not just a body, but an energy filled with thoughts, stories, and hidden tensions. And if you are a sensitive, introverted soul, or if you're walking the path of individuation, the journey toward becoming your true self, this can feel overwhelmingly exhausting. For Jung, the house was never just a wall protecting you from the world. It was a mirror of your inner life. If you feel at peace in your home, it means something inside you is also in harmony. But if visits disturb your calm, shift the atmosphere, or shatter your silence, then maybe it's your unconscious whispering, "This soul is still under construction. I'm not ready to open all the doors." And that's perfectly okay. Protecting your home is also protecting yourself. In depth psychology, respecting your boundaries is a crucial step toward healing and integration. So, if you've ever felt guilty for not wanting visitors, for simply preferring to be alone, now you understand. You're not isolating yourself. You're honoring the temple where your soul resides. Have you ever put on a polite smile while deep down all you wanted was silence? Made coffee, engaged in small talk, acted friendly, all the while thinking, "When will this visit end?" It sounds harsh, doesn't it? You feel ungrateful, heartless, but don't worry. Carl Jung helps us make sense of this inner struggle. Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to present ourselves to the world. It's the social role, the version of us that adapts to work, family, relationships, even to a visit. The persona isn't false, it's just limited. Not your whole soul, only a fragment. usually the most socially acceptable one. The problem begins when you must wear this mask inside your own home, where you should be free to be your true self. For people with a particularly strong persona, including many introverted, sensitive, and observant individuals, a visit can be utterly draining. Suddenly, you must perform. Choose your words carefully. Control your expressions. Track the conversation. Worry about the dishes, the lighting, the atmosphere. All of it consumes psychic energy. A lot of it. Jung said, the persona is necessary. It helps us function in society. But when we mistake the persona for our true self, the soul begins to cry out. Perhaps this is why you feel that inner resistance to visits. It's not that you dislike people. It's that you feel forced to uphold a socially acceptable image, when all you truly desire is peace, to be barefoot in silence, staring out the window. And do you know what's even worse? Many people spend years living behind their persona. Even at home, they welcome guests, smile politely, make an effort, while inside they feel exhausted, irritated, drained. But here's a liberating truth, rooted in depth psychology. You have the right to be completely yourself in your own space. You are allowed to say no to visits. You are allowed to decline invitations, to be unavailable, because in trying to please others, you often abandon yourself. There are moments when you simply need to be alone, not out of drama or sadness, but because your soul is calling for silence. In those moments, society might see you as strange or antisocial. After all, we live in a culture that celebrates constant activity, social presence, loudness, visibility. But Carl Jung saw it differently. For him, the impulse to withdraw was often the beginning of one of life's most important journeys, the path of individuation. Individuation means becoming who you were born to be, not what society expects, not what your parents projected, not the persona you've adopted, but your true self, with light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, your essence, your truth. And this transformation doesn't happen in noise. It happens in silence, in retreat, in pause. That's why discomfort with visitors isn't laziness or emotional instability. It's your soul protecting you, keeping distractions at bay, so you can hear what is whispered deep within. Something inside you is trying to surface, but for that, you need time alone. Jung said it clearly. Loneliness does not come from having no people around. It comes from being unable to express what truly matters to you. And what could be more important than listening to yourself? But how can that happen? In the middle of commotion? With guests who won't leave? In conversations that don't touch the soul? The truth is, some phases of life demand conscious isolation, not as an escape, but as immersion. You don't withdraw to disappear. You withdraw to return fully, clearer, stronger, more yourself. While the outside world demands your attention, parties, obligations, presents, your inner world asks for something different. Stay a moment longer. Don't open the door just yet. Take care of yourself first. Maybe you've already felt it while listening. That strange, almost relieving feeling. That deep, quiet calm when someone finally puts words to what you've felt for a long time, but could never explain. And yes, believe it, this discomfort with visitors, this almost physical unease you've long seen as a flaw, is actually a reflection of something much deeper. If Carl Jung were sitting beside you with his calm, penetrating gaze, he might say, "You are not wrong for wanting to be alone. You are simply listening to the voice of your soul." And that is rare. Now, let me share 6 profound insights from Jungian psychology about people who prefer solitude, especially in their own home. First, you are probably more sensitive to the energy of spaces than you realize. Jung said, "The unconscious perceives what the conscious mind misses." Some people are acutely attuned to the psychic field of others. The voice, the gaze, the silence, the unspoken tension, all of it affects you. When someone enters your home, they bring not just their body, but their energy, unresolved emotions, their stories, and you feel it as heaviness, as inner restlessness, and it is exhausting. Second, your psyche needs space. Jung saw introversion as a natural necessity to bring order to the soul. Time alone in silence helps your mind realign, but even a single visit can disrupt this fragile balance. What others see as laziness is, in truth, your system gasping for air. Third, constant social interaction can alienate you from yourself. Jung said, "The true self can only emerge in inner stillness. Polite conversations, constant presence, friendliness, they all distance you from your innermost being. It's not that you dislike people, but to be with others, you often have to set yourself aside." Fourth, the mere presence of another can awaken your shadow. The shadow, Jung's term for everything we've suppressed. Memories, traumas, unwanted aspects of our personality. Sometimes, all it takes is a casual remark from a visitor, and suddenly you feel restless, irritated, or uneasy. It's not always about the person. It's about what they trigger in you, a part of your psyche that has not yet been integrated. Fifth, that withdrawal you sometimes feel may actually be the beginning of something sacred, the start of your process of individuation. Jung said, "Individuation means becoming who you truly are, and that path begins the moment you stop trying to please the world and start listening to yourself. When you realize you need time, silence, distance, not to escape life, but to engage with it more deeply, more honestly, that is the beginning of profound transformation." Sixth, you are finally learning to listen to yourself, to say no without guilt, to close the door without a bad conscience, to respect your boundaries without feeling rude, because every time you force kindness when you don't have the energy, every smile, every gesture you give just to fit into someone else's world, you abandon yourself. And now you've realized you can't live like that anymore. It's time to honor your soul. Picture this: an old man, long white beard, holding a lantern, walking alone through a dark night on a quiet path. This is the classic image of the hermit, an ancient figure with profound meaning in Jungian psychology. Jung said, "The hermit is an archetype, a primordial image, a universal energy that lives in each of us, even if we don't always recognize or embody it." And what does this have to do with you? Your desire not to receive visitors, to be alone in your home? A lot. The hermit symbolizes the inner call for withdrawal, for wisdom, and for self-knowledge. It's the impulse that drives you to close the door, to turn off your phone, not to escape, but to listen, to hear what's going on inside of you. The hermit lives in silence, because he knows that only in stillness does the brightest light appear. This archetype does not represent empty loneliness or pathological isolation. It represents the courage to look inward, to face your shadows, doubts, fears, and in doing so, to discover your own inner light. No one else can give you this light. Only you can find it, and to do so, the hermit needs a sacred space. Often, that space is your own home, your retreat. If you feel that almost irresistible desire not to host guests, to remain in quiet, then it may be your inner hermit calling. He asks you to slow down, not to lose yourself in the noise of the outer world, but to reconnect with your core being. Jung believed that answering this call is essential for mental and emotional health. And you know what? Following the path of the hermit is also an act of resistance against the frantic pace of the world, against superficial relationships, against the constant pressure to be available and social. It is an act of self-love, of soul care. So the next time someone asks why you prefer to be alone, or why you don't want visitors, remember the hermit within you. He stands there with his lantern, showing you true light is born only after you enter your own darkness, and it is completely okay to need silence to find yourself again. Have you noticed how powerful deep solitude can be? When embraced, it's not just about being alone, it's about what you do with that solitude. For Jung, the hermit was never a sad figure, never a social failure. He is a guardian of inner wisdom. When you follow the hermit's call, your solitude transforms into a journey of growth. In that space, you find answers that the noise of the world has drowned out. There, you allow yourself to feel, to think, to reflect without rush, and your soul begins to heal. You learn to recognize patterns, to integrate your shadows, to discover parts of yourself that have long been hidden. And more than that, you begin to develop a quiet strength, an inner confidence that doesn't rely on external validation. For many, this path is challenging, because the world celebrates constant doing, networking, and social activity. But the hermit reminds us, to truly be there for the world, you must first be there for yourself. That is the wisdom of solitude. So, if you decline a visit, if you prefer to be alone, you are not closing yourself off. You are preparing inwardly to meet others later, in a more authentic, deeply connected way. First with yourself, and then with others. The hermit invites you to this deep transformation. And if you feel that inner call, then you are on the right path. Now that you've come to know the hermit within you, an important question arises. How do you find balance between the desire for solitude and the need for connection? Jung taught that a healthy life does not mean denying the social or completely isolating yourself. It means establishing a conscious dialogue between both aspects. The hermit calls for silence, withdrawal, introspection. The outer world demands engagement, activity, participation. The art lies in respecting your boundaries, without shutting yourself off completely, and in not forcing yourself into social interactions when you are not internally ready. It's a daily practice of listening, of communicating clearly, of honoring your inner rhythm. You can create rituals that protect your quiet time, reading, a solitary walk, a morning routine just for you. At the same time, you can choose intentional moments to connect with people who truly nourish you and respect your space. This balance isn't easy at first, but it is liberating, and most importantly, you don't have to justify it. You owe no explanation to anyone except yourself. Society may not understand it, but your soul knows what it needs. And Jung said, individuation means becoming true to yourself, even when the world demands otherwise. So allow yourself this path, honor the hermit within you, and at the same time, cultivate genuine connections that nourish your soul instead of depleting it. Then loneliness no longer becomes a burden, but a sacred space for renewal. We know that holding this balance isn't easy. The world is loud, full of expectations, and your inner voice sometimes judges you for wanting to be alone. But respecting your boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of deep self-love and care. First, learn to recognize your inner signals. Is your body tired? Your mind scattered? Your mood irritable? These are signs your system needs a break. When you notice this, allow yourself to slow down, even if it means canceling plans or turning off your phone. Second, communicate clearly. You don't have to justify everything. A simple, "I'm staying home today. I need time for myself," is enough. People who love you will understand. Those who don't, that's another story. Third, create a sacred space. It could be a cozy corner in your home, a favorite spot in the park, or a morning routine just for yourself. There, you connect with your innermost being. There, your inner hermit feels safe. And finally, be gentle with yourself. Don't expect to always function or be socially present. You are allowed to just be with yourself. Honoring your longing for solitude is honoring your soul. It's the path to becoming whole, just as Carl Jung taught. Perhaps now, at the end of this journey, you feel something has been touched within you, something deep, something true. And that is the great beauty of Jung's work, the uniqueness of every soul. There is no right or wrong way to be. There is only your way. And if your way means staying home, away from visitors and noise, that does not make you strange or less lovable. Jung reminds us that individuation, the process of becoming whole, also means embracing all parts of ourselves, even those that society doesn't always value. So, when you respect your longing for retreat, you are honoring an essential part of your soul. You don't need to fit into external molds to be happy. Your home, your silence, your solitude. These are sacred spaces where your soul renews itself and grows. There, in that intimate space, you will find the strength to meet the world in your own way, with authenticity and inner peace. If you take away just one insight today, let it be this. Your way of being in the world is valid. Your love of silence is a legitimate expression of your soul, and it deserves respect, above all, from yourself. We've reached the end of this journey, but in truth, it's only just beginning for you. Together, we've explored the 6 truths of Carl Jung, met the archetype of the hermit, and discovered how solitude can become a source of deep wisdom. Now, I invite you to look inward with gentleness. Recognize that your desire to be alone is not a weakness, but a reflection of a deep inner connection. Know that your boundaries are not walls of selfishness, but acts of true self-care. And right there, in the silence of your own space, you hold the possibility to bloom each day, becoming a little more your true self.